Дякую.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olha Atamanova, and Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform continues its operation today. It's day 628 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor, and now we will be talking about prevention of emergencies during the heating season. Joining us in our studio is the press officer of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, Mr. Oleksandr Khorunzhiy. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Mr. Oleksandr, let's start with the situation for the time being. What are the challenges that you are seeing already? Let's start with the main threat of the heating season is the fire threat. And a little bit of statistics for the beginning. Let me disclose it right away. During the year 2022, there were 4,429 fires, which resulted from violation of fire safety rules during operation of ovens and gas equipment. It's 5.5% of all the fires, which amounted to 80,654 during the whole year. Those fires resulted in death of 259 persons, including 3 children. Unfortunately, the statistics is this sad, and again, the main reason, the main cause of it was the violation of fire safety rules during operation of the heating devices. What is the situation for the time being? As of today, as of the beginning of this month of November, there were 2,627 fires documented in Ukraine, which resulted from violation of fire safety rules during operation of heating and gas equipment. It resulted in death of 4 children and more than 200 adult persons. In October, there were 5 casualties of fires, including 1 child. The biggest number of fires resulted from improper operation of heating and gas operated equipment. Accounted for Kiev region with 308 fires, then goes Vinnytsia region with 181 and Cherkasy region with 168 fires. So during this heating season we document the biggest number of fires, but thanks God the month of October was pretty warm. We didn't observe any tendency to the growth of number of fires. Quite the opposite, there was the decrease compared to the same period of the last year. So the State Emergency Service of Ukraine exercised more than 4,600 missions, which covered 1,300,000 persons who were properly briefed in terms of operation of the gas operated and heating equipment. So it's one of the priorities of work, the prevention of fires and the work with the population. all the bodies of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, they cannot get to the housing of Ukrainian citizens at their own will. That's protected by the legislation of Ukraine. But if people apply to the State Emergency Service with the request of fire inspection, we will not refuse it, and we will indicate all the defects of outfitting of housing that may potentially result in fire threat. Well, talking about the improper operation of ovens and gas-operated equipment, we're talking mostly about the rural areas here. So we urge the citizens not to use any gas equipment in adjacent areas near the ovens. And one of the main reasons of or causes of fires is the lack of cleaning of chimneys, because people just usually may be poisoned by the fire gas in case there is a cinder on the walls of the chimney which is not cleared. There are special briefings that we've developed for all categories of equipment, improper operation of which may result in fire or injury to the people. First is the use of electric heating devices. Just a couple of words about that. Please make sure not to use self-made electric devices for heating. Also, don't switch on a lot of pieces of electric equipment at once using the same socket, which may result in overload of networks. Also, do not use the electric heating devices to dry the clothing, and don't leave such devices on and unattended. Secondly, obviously we expect, God help us, not to have it happen, but we're all preparing to the terroristic attacks of Russian Federation on the energy infrastructure of Ukraine. Thus, we've contemplated a number of preventive measures that we want to brief our citizens on, something that the people may use to prevent the fire in their housing. So if there is no light, people usually use the candles, specifically in rural areas. So please use stable chandeliers, keep the candles away from flammable materials, just leave a butt of 2 to 3 centimeters, and don't leave any open fire sources unattended. Remember, last year when the lights were switched off, people started using the gas burners, touristic gas burners. That was the first time we were facing this kind of threat that we had to react to. We've developed a number of recommendations for the people to avoid emergencies. And after the month of December, it was the 10th of October, month of October, it was the 10th of October when there were the first shellings of the first missile strikes on our energy infrastructure. It was the first time that people started using those gas burners. So if possible, please don't use such devices at home, because they are not fit for home use. But when you need to heat up some food for your children and there is a long-term period without lights, so we have a number of pieces of advice. Please comply with the instruction of the manufacturer. Also, use only certified devices. Please read the instruction carefully and comply with all the rules. And it's very desirable also to preserve the bottles somewhere not on the balcony, but rather in a specific areas, because when such bottles get from cold to the warm to the room, the gases that are inside of those bottles, they tend to expand, and such bottles may leak, and this leakage may result in explosion and subsequent fire. Also, of course, don't leave such bottles near the electric stoves, electric burners, because if the lights go back on, such bottles may explode. There are also recommendations for generators, and there are recommendations for storage of POL for the generators. You may get familiarized with all the recommendations on the website of State Emergency Service of Ukraine. We have a section on our website which is called Power Shutdowns. Of course, if we read through all of them, we're just going to run out of time of our press conference. Also, how is the State Emergency Service preparing to the winter season? We have the plan of actions developed to prevent the threats and the plan of response for the emergencies during the winter season of years 23-24, and in accordance with this plan, we've contemplated the size of quick response teams. We have a list of the most vulnerable infrastructure of Kiev region and other regions of Ukraine. We have a list of most vulnerable roadways, snow blizzards on which may result in significant traffic gaps. But to prevent such emergencies, State Emergency Service of Ukraine contemplated more than 20,000 personnel and more than 1,300 units of material. What kind of material it can be? Is the engineer material, engineer machinery, snow cleaning machinery, which is managed mostly by the local governments, but even here there are certain ways that we can help. 20 units of all-terrain vehicles, diesel and electric heat generators, mobile electric stations, and also we contemplate the deployment of resilience stations that we can discuss in more detail. Well, for the time being, yes, let's talk about the resilience stations. What will be their concentration in the regions and how can our citizens use them? Well, for the time being, we have more than 1,000 resilience stations deployed all across Ukraine. 750 stationary resilience stations and about 240 mobile resilience stations based in the tents. The deployed resilience stations are equipped in compliance with the requirements approved by the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine. Specifically said, those are heat generators, all the necessary electric equipment, hot drinks for the citizens. What else can people do? There are the safety corners with the briefings for the people to get familiarized with. There are resilience stations where the mothers can repack their children, and there is a specific list of services that people can obtain at those resilience stations. And according to the latest details talking about the resilience stations, we provided help for more than 635,000 people, well, starting from October 2022, and in year 2023 106,043 persons received assistance at the resilience stations, and we continue improving our operations to make sure that people can get timely help from the representatives of State Emergency Service of Ukraine, because usually at the resilience stations there are representatives of SISU and Ministry of Foreign Affairs on duty or from patrol police, for example. We can also provide the emergency medical aid at the resilience stations. Mr. Oleksandr, I would like to ask you in detail about a number of other issues. We understand the generators. Many Ukrainians procured them during previous year when the mass terroristic strikes of the Russians had begun. So all those types of devices, do they require any types of maintenance? We understand they were sitting somewhere in the storages during summer, so before they're getting back in operation, do people need to perform any maintenance on them? Well, obviously all the maintenance should be completed in accordance with the instruction of the manufacturer. If you keep using it on a permanent basis, it becomes a dangerous device. Why is it dangerous? Because it creates not only electric current, but it's also harmful because it emits different burning products. If you install it inside of any premises, it may end very dangerous for the people. So the first thing, the first rule to observe as you install the generator, don't use it inside of any rooms. Also install it away from the windows or doors so that the burning products of the generator don't end up inside of the housing. Also, all the users are supposed to inspect the generator for defects and rectify those defects in case there are any. Also make sure there is no corrosion. Electric elements of the generator are supposed to be grounded. Also avoid contact of electric wires with the water. Don't switch the generator on during rain or fire, or in case there is any, please cover them to make sure there is no humidity getting inside the generator. Also avoid any rotating elements of the generator, and during the work of the generator please make sure of its proper technical condition. In case you observe any leakage of fuel or oil, or if you hear any strange sounds that you're not supposed to hear, please cease the operation of the generator for proper maintenance. And once again, please use all the generator outside of your housing areas. Well, another question about the equipment which helps people to cook the food. You mentioned that they are supposed to be certified, but do you have any advice how to replace that terroristic device that many people use so that they can be better prepared for the case of a repeated Russian terroristic strikes? Well, look, there are different types of terroristic gas burners, and if it happens so that you cannot make it without that burner at home, please use such a device. And I will give you just a regular example. There is a terroristic burner. You put, for example, a pan on top of it, so the bottle is nearby, and what happens is when the terroristic burner is being heated, I mean the gas bottle, the heat goes all the way up to the pan is being heated, and it emits more heat back to the fire bottle, and if the distance between them is too short, that bottle may explode. We've documented very serious damage of housing and injury of people in case of such explosions. So please find high quality burners, check their certificates. That's a mandatory thing. It's your right to request the certificate for such a product. And also make sure to have the fire bottle protected, so it's protected against that device that you will be heating, that piece of cutlery. because explosions usually result from this heat that is being emitted by that conditional pen that you're heating. Dear colleagues, do we have any questions on the floor? Yulia Gadina, Ukrinform, you've mentioned that the citizens may ask the representatives of SESU for inspection of their house and for fire safety. So do the people frequently apply to with such requests? And if, for example, I have such a desire, where do I go? Whom do I ask for that? Well, people don't usually ask us to do so because, you know, their homes is their own homes, and people don't really like it when the representatives of any government bodies, they come to your home. Maybe they are afraid of some fines. No, it entails no fines. We may only advise the citizens if it's a, say, regional center or some facilities in the rural area. We may advise the citizens on the sources of threat and what to do about them. For example, there may be fissures in the ovens, and before you fire up the oven, you're supposed to have a metal pan underneath it, because the fire may result from cinder ending up on the wooden floor. So those are the elementary rules that people sometimes just don't understand. So we only provide recommendations, we provide briefing for the people, we may disseminate some leaflets, and people, we hope, afterwards will use all the fire safety rules. What is the procedure? You may submit a written application to a Regional Department of State Emergency Service of Ukraine with their request of fire inspection of your housing due to the winter heating season coming. If people apply to us in that way, we may respond and thus come to people's homes for inspection. If people don't ask us, in accordance with the Constitution of Ukraine, we cannot just enter someone's dwelling for inspection. So let's sum it up. If your professionals identify some violations of the safety rules, you don't impose any fines, you only provide recommendations. Of course, no, there are no fines in the rural area specifically. Well, we can only talk about any common areas or something like apartment blocks. In those cases, we have to produce, so to say, written administrative measures of influence for the operating organizations. But here we don't talk about the apartments, it's only about the areas of common use. Oh, thank you very much. Do you have anything to add? Well, I just wanted to remind everybody that there is something else that may be of use to the people. Are resilience stations where people may come and see where they are located. Everything is added, all the details are added to the DIA application. So all the resilience stations that are operated by different entities, everything is reflected in the mobile application of the joint government service portal DIA. And SESU organized coordination with the local governments for that purpose. So any citizen may enter DIA and check where is the nearest resilience station, and in case of necessity obtain all the necessary services there that I have mentioned already. And on top of that, there is internet available, there are recharging devices for the gadgets available there. Some of them have even the TVs installed there. So it's quite a useful thing that Ministry of Digital Transformation have developed and people may use. Well, thank you very much for this information. Hope this season will be safer this year because we know what to expect. So thank you very much for this information. I'm reminding you, dear colleagues, joining us in the studio was Oleksandr Khorunzhiy, the spokesperson of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Thank you very much. Our team is putting together the schedule for tomorrow. Thank you for staying tuned. Let's continue working for our victory, and glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Thanks, everybody.